Hey guys, it's Jacoya of Jacoya Gems. Thank you once again for coming back to view my channel. Do me a favor if you have not already done so, hit the subscribe button, like this video, share it to your social media platforms. Today's Survivor Scribe is back with another interview on today. I have the pleasure of interviewing someone that I know personally, someone that has been there for me through one of the darkest hours of my life that you guys have no idea about. She has been a support system, an amazing mother, and so on today I am interviewing Ebony Kelley. Hey Eb,
Hey sis, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm blessed. I can't complain. I won't
Thank
complain.
you. Good. Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you on today for you to share your story with us.
Thank you for asking me. This is my first time, so I'm excited, a little nervous at the same time, but I'm excited for the most part.
I definitely understand the nerves, but don't be nervous. It's just us. So what I'm about to do right now is send out the link because there are some people who want to view it. Do you want me to email you the link or so you can send it out to people?
No, you can send it to me in Messenger.
Okay. So while we're doing that, sis, just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, where you're from.
Okay. Well, good morning, Grand Rising. So all my kings, queens, gods, and goddesses. First and foremost, give all praise to the Most High God. My name is Ebony Kelley. I'm born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I come from a two-parent home. I have five siblings, six altogether. I have three brothers and three sisters. Um, I am a mother of five beautiful, wonderful kids, four boys, one girl. I am a divorced single mom. Um, I am a I'm in the medical field. I've been in the medical field for 23 years now. Um, I live in Chicago, Illinois, right now. And right now, I'm just living life to the fullest. Um, yeah.
Thank you so much for that introduction, sis. So describe where you're from. I know you said you're in Chicago right now, Chi-Town all day. Where are you originally from, Chicago?
No, I'm sorry. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, born and raised. I moved from Detroit when I was in my late 20s, like over 10 years ago. So I've been out of Detroit for over 10 years. I've been here for almost 9 years, but I also lived in Las Vegas, Nevada for 2.5, 3 years before settling down in Chicago.
How was it growing up in Detroit? Now, I've never, well, maybe I think when I was a baby, but I've never been to Detroit before. And I hear that it's a lot of similarities between Detroit and Chicago when it comes to a lot of things. But give us some insight.
Well, I'm gonna say for me growing up in Detroit, um, it was pretty cool. Of course, we had our violence and everything, but from what I see now between Detroit and Chicago, we used to say in Detroit, "Oh, Chicago, old school. They like down south people," but no, that's not the case. Chicago is a little bit more upbeat and a little more fast paced than Detroit. Detroit is more so down south, like wise. We're not as upbeat and upgoing as Chicago people. We more laid back, but it has its similarities and it has its difference. I love both states. Of course, I'm always love my Detroit home, um, but I love Chicago too, and they both have their ups and downs. There's really not too much of a difference. I would say, to me, my opinion, Chicago is just a little bit more violent than Detroit. Just, but other than that, it's pretty much the same. School system is the same. The upcoming, to be honest, I think the children have a little bit more of a childhood in Detroit than Chicago nowadays. Um, Yeah, I don't. That's about it. As far as Detroit and Chicago, because I don't go to Detroit much to see how it is. It was like when I left, the economy was like very bad. Um, but the cost of living in Chicago is a little more higher than there it is in Detroit. Um, but the economy is kind of like it's slowly building up. So I won't say I won't go back and move there, but yeah, I love both states. I love both. Detroit and Chicago. I love them both. To me, I don't have no comparison because I lived in both of them for quite a while. So I see the same thing in both states. But like I said, Chicago is a little bit more fast paced. So it's a lot more going on in Chicago than Detroit.
I wish you would have got to come to Chicago when we in our growing up.
Yeah.
It was totally different. We could get on a bus and go to the skating ring. We could go to the mall and things without our parents. We was able to
Exactly.
play jump rope. Like we were able to be out and about in our neighborhoods. I definitely
Exactly.
agree. Like my kids are being raised totally different than I was.
Exactly. Like I don't even let my kids really go outside to be honest. I don't because you never know what's going to happen and where it's going to happen there because nowadays they go in parks and shoot up parks and they don't care what they do. It's just they're going to do it right then and there. Like I didn't have since I've been out south. I done had two drive-bys with my neighbors on both sides of me. So my kids go outside. They have to go in the backyard. Was gated. In Detroit, when I do go down there, my kids, my nieces, my nephews, they run freely up and down the street like we used to do as kids. We didn't I'm not gonna say they don't worry about shooting in Detroit because they do have that as well. That's everywhere you go. You're gonna have that. But it's a little bit more um controllable in Detroit other than Chicago. Chicago is wild. Chicago is wild. I love it, but we wild.
Nah, you right when you right. So, what are some falsehoods that people may place on others from Detroit, from that part? I mean, because by us being from the Midwest in general, people have their judgments about us. But have you heard any about Detroit?
Yeah. In Detroit, they judge them because they say basically, they bums. They don't want to get jobs. They don't want to do nothing with themselves. They very ghetto, low class. You know, um, I'm not gonna say I see it that in Detroit because you do have your hardworking citizens. And when I was coming up, the environment that I grew up around, we had I could say I grew up in like a middle class. So you saw parents get up and go to work every day. You know, you saw young adults with jobs. I was one of them myself. I had my first job when I was 16. So we saw a lot of that. Nowadays, you see more people standing on corners, you know, um, very open and willing to just selling and comfortable with selling weed and selling drugs and not making anything out themselves. So, yeah.
And I know you mentioned growing up in a two-parent household, being middle class. So share more about that. How was it growing up in Detroit in a two-parent household? I know, unfortunately, my oldest sister, she got bullied at school, her first day of school, because my daddy dropped her off. And she came home crying. And she's like, Daddy, I don't want to go back to school anymore. And
Oh
he was
wow.
like, Why? She said, Because those kids said I thought I was better than them because I have a father. And we still deal with some of that now as adults.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So, how was that?
Well, to be honest, I was bullied in school myself from sixth grade up into I can say the eighth throughout my whole duration of middle school. I got bullied. I got bullied in the neighborhood. Like me and my siblings, I think we was the family to bully on. like because where we lived, it kind of like it stood out. We didn't stay on the block with all the rest of the kids in the houses. We was like stay next to a church in the field, so it was like we was singled out. So everyone in the neighborhood kind of like bullied on us. All the boys wanted to jump on my brother all the time. The girls wanted to fight me and my sisters, and in school I went through bullying as well with people in my class, because I was skinny. They used to call me Ebony or Bony because I was so skinny. The boys used to tease me because I wasn't fully developed like the other young ladies in the class. And I didn't get chased home. I didn't People didn't try to jump on me. Oh God, we didn't had young men come to the house and try and fight my brother, chase my brother home. So I went through a lot of the bullying stages, like um, all throughout middle school, and I went through a lot of that. So, but I had parents, and especially my father, that taught us how to take up for ourselves. My mother was a working mom, but she played her role as the mother. My father did all the disciplinary things, like and stuff. So it was good growing up in a two-parent household, which we had our ups and we had our downs in there too. My mom and dad had their marriage problems and everything, so I witnessed that. My dad had a child out of wedlock, so I had to witness that. He moved out of our home to be with my youngest sister mom for a while. So I seen my mom go through a lot of hurt. I seen my mom go through a lot of pain. I seen her cry some days, but I also saw her be a strong woman because she kept us in the church and she kept her mind on the Most High. She kept her spirit up at all times, and she never allowed us to see her down or broken. Even though we have got a glimpse of it, but if she can control it, we didn't see it because she always stayed strong. My father struggled with his own demons as coming up, so I witnessed that as well. I witnessed people in my neighborhood teasing me because of the things my dad was going through. So I had to fight my way through that, and but for the most part, we never went without food. They did take care of their home and their children and stuff like that. But by them going through their problems in their marriage, um, to me, I can say I pretty much and somewhat kind of raised myself because by them going through the things they was going through, that led me and pushed me out in the streets and hanging around other young kids that was coming from a one parent home or coming from being raised by their grandma and their parent, but their parent was on the same level as my dad, struggling with drugs and everything. So I kind of like strayed into the streets and into my friends and indulged into them because my home as I got older kind of like started to tear apart.
Hmm.
So it led me to the streets a little more than being at home doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a
Okay,
child.
so I want to unpack everything you just said, and thank you so much for sharing with us in depth. So, the first thing I want to unpack is the bullying. I know how that feels, and we've talked about this before, but share with people like the psychological effect that has on a child. You're not bothering people, you're going to school, you're minding your own business, and then you're met with this negativity. So, how did that affect you psychologically, if at all?
Um, it made me verge off to myself. I stayed to myself a lot. I'm not sure. I can't say that it hurted because I came to dwell on those feelings back then because it it made me just want to be to myself. I didn't have friends, but then it pushed me to the point where I felt like I had to fight all the time. I felt like I had to fight, and it put me into a violent stage because I started bringing weapons to school. One time, these young ladies, I was in the 6th grade, and I believe these young ladies was in the 8th grade, and they kept bullying on me like after school and doing school and trying to jump on me to the point where my dad had this real cool pocket knife, and I took the knife to school, and I was about ready to really hurt somebody because I got tired of the bullying. It put me in a position to where I wasn't focused on school because I felt like I had to defend myself while I was in school. I wasn't focused on me learning because I had to focus on defending myself while in the classroom. I found myself fighting more often because I got tired of the bullying. So I felt as if, okay, if I fight the most popular person in the class, or if I push back the most popular boy in the class, then everybody will leave me alone. So that's what I had to do for survival. I had to pick one of the girls out the group and beat her up. I had to take up for myself. Like I say, it got to the point where I got so tired of people constantly trying to jump on me to the point I was just ready to hurt somebody just to show them, leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? That's and it was sad because once I got to high school, I wasn't focused on school no more. I started skipping. I started drinking. I started smoking weed. I started smoking cigarettes. I started just dealing with an older crowd to where I'll walk to school because of course the school right here by my house so my parents could see me, but I had to go out the back door, you know, because I didn't want to get bullied in high school because I didn't have the best of the best. I didn't have the best clothes. I didn't have the name brand shoes, you know. So I felt that that was the reason why I got bullied in middle school. It was or because I was, as they say, I was black. They say I looked like Whoopi Goldberg. You know what I'm saying? So to me coming up, she was ugly. So when people say that, it was an insult. So I felt as if I was ugly. Um, I felt as if no one would like me. So I started hanging out with the bad kids. I started hanging out with the kids that wasn't going to school, just to feel like, just to feel like I have friends, and it was I wish it wouldn't have happened because I'll probably be in a better place now, but it did happen, and I embraced it the best way I knew how because I didn't go to my parents and tell my parents, well, mom and dad, this person is bullying on me, or my classmates doing this, my classmates doing that. It got to the point where I started being bad in school. You know, we've had a teacher that used to sell candy bars and stuff. I started stealing the candy bars, just to be cool, but it turns out I was getting in trouble a lot because I got caught stealing candy bars and stuff. So I was getting suspended from school a lot. It took a real deep toll on me. It made me just act out in the worst way.
Thank you, sis. You have okay, so you have no idea. I'm so happy that you broke that down and the way you broke that down because it mirrors a lot of things that I went through. I'm sorry that you went through it at such a young age. I had to fight in grammar school. I think I had maybe 3 fights in grammar school. Slapped the taste out of somebody's mouth in grammar school. But in high school, so a lot of people don't realize that where you end up in life after those points started because of trauma way before those points. So I know exactly how it feels to you want to learn, you want to be in school, you just want to go to school, do your homework and come home.
Right.
So I
Exactly.
definitely understand because people even till this day I'm sorry, look at me as like some violent, volatile tear, want to beat everybody up. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not, like that's not. But when you go through life being picked on and you go through life being bullied and you find the need to beat everybody up just to be like, leave me alone. alone. And
Exactly.
so to hear that somebody else that I know went through those exact things, you're not being malicious to people, you're not in people's business, you're not spreading rumors, you just all of a sudden become a target for whatever it is. And so that's something that I believe that needs to be talked about more, is how bullying, it's real. How a lot of people aren't going around fighting just to fight. Fighting
Exactly.
isn't fun. I mean, now when you're good at it, but it's not fun.
Right.
It's not
Exactly.
fun when you waking up in the morning and your body aching and you in pain and you like, did I really pick somebody up by their hair and throw? Like it's not fun to
Exactly.
think back when you're in your 30s at the level of violence that your mind can reaches.
Especially as a
And
young
so
child.
the psychological aspect that constantly being a kid, it has an effect because now you're not able to perform in your classes. I found myself as well. I would skip school because I got tired of fighting. So I just
Yeah.
skipped school. My teachers would tell my parents, Tierra barely comes to class, but when she does, she gets all A's. And so that's something that I believe that needs to be looked into because a lot of our children who we have called juvenile delinquents or bad kids or whatever, they're dealing with some stuff at school that we don't know about or that we can't comprehend fully. Now, I know you said that you didn't tell your parents about it a lot and that it made you become like a volatile person and it pushed you out to the streets. And I was just telling one of a group of my friends that went to high school with me, I had to sit back and I had to realize, Tierra, you were really dating gangbangers at 14, 15, 16 years old. Begat violence. And when you become a violent person, violent people are going to take notice of that. And they're going to gravitate towards you, and you're going to gravitate towards that. And so, by that pushing you out into the streets, did your parents ever find out about you starting to drink and smoke and things like that?
Well, of course. One time when I was in high school, um, I was drinking. Well, my dad have caught me and my sister skipping school actually when I was still in grammar school, because she was being bullied on herself. So we started skipping school as well. And one day my dad caught us. So that was kind of like, uh-oh. But as far as drinking, when I didn't start drinking when I got to high school. But yeah, one time I skipped school with a friend of mine and we got real drunk and we went back to the school and she left me there. So when my sister saw that I was drunk and she told on me, and I was upstairs at my neighbor's house and my dad came up there, and oh my god, he made me clean up the whole house. But I never told them why I was acting out the way I was acting out because I didn't feel as if they would listen, because it was like
Mm.
they wasn't paying attention at home anyways. That's how I felt. This my opinion. I felt like they wasn't paying attention to us no ways because my dad out doing his thing, my mama worried about her marriage and she's working. They both was hard working people. They both went to work, but they was just so caught up in their own world. So that when I got to high school, it was just like non-existent. Do your thing, even though we still had a two-parent household. So I just kept a lot of things to myself, but as far as the bullying in my neighborhood, my dad knew about that because we used to run home and he used to always tell us, "Don't be scared of nobody," and this, that. And he used to take us to their house and be like, "Oh, well, your daughters or your sisters trying to jump on my daughter or my daughters, if they want to fight," he used to make us fight. He used to call them out like, "Nah, y'all not about to just let people chase y'all home or let people do you gonna stand your ground and you're gonna fight so that's what made me become unscared of people as well because I had a dad that didn't play. No, if my mother and father was gone and they'll come back and they'll see a lot of boys in the house trying to fight my brother, I used to me and my sister used to be side by side with my brother like, no, y'all not about to jump my brother and we all gonna do this together. He always taught us to, if one fight, you all fight, you know. But I never went to them and told them, "Mom, Dad, this is why I'm acting up in school. This is why I'm getting bad grades in school because of this." I just, like I said, gravitated to the kids that wasn't going to school or was doing bad. I had a boyfriend at the age of 12, and he was 15. So I was skipping school at his house. No, I wasn't sexually active then, but I was skipping school at his house. I was skipping school with him and his homeboys. And I don't know if my parents ever knew because I don't believe the school even called. And when I got to high school, it was just like, oh well, the police don't catch you and send you home or take you home or take you to school, your parents wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So like I said, it just made me just want to be wild because I felt like if I'm wild and if I'm bad, people will like me. People won't bully on me. I'd be cool then. People want to hang out with me. They would look at me as being a friend. I just wanted friends because it was always this me and my sisters. So on the outside, I wanted friends on the outside. But by me being bullied so much in middle school, it made me just want to gravitate towards the bad kids in high school. And that's what I did. I found a group of people from my neighborhood because I didn't go to school to find friends in school. So the kids that was acting out in my neighborhood, those the kids I hung out with. We skipped school. We stole cars. Drove around in stolen cars all the time. We got drunk. We smoked weed. Me and my other friend, we go hang out with older guys. So and then I found myself being pregnant. So that kind of like really slowed me down. I got pregnant at 15. So it kind of like slowed me down. And then when I wanted to go back to school after I had my son, it was too late. When I wanted to say, okay, I got to focus now. I got to do what I got to do to finish high school. I got to knock on the door. And they was telling my mom they kicked me out of high school. So once I got kicked out of high school, even though they said I had to go to adult ed, no one took that effort to put me there. So it was just, I was a young teen mom at home.
And see, thank you for sharing that, sis. It's a lot of misnomers about coming from a two-parent household. That if you come from a two-parent household, you should have it all together. You should be perfect. Your grades should be okay. You should grow up, never have sex, never drink, never smoke, especially you said because your mom was a Christian and she kept y'all in church. And I'm a PK. And so people think that because you come from what they perceive to be a better situation than them, people hold you to a standard. And to me, that's the most, I don't want to say I have this phrase, the asinine BS that I have ever heard.
Right.
Because what people fail to realize, it means that you're possibly dealing with two toxic parents versus just one. Now you have to witness their relationship issues within the home. Like, regardless of how much parents try to hide stuff and how private they may be, children always know. Children know their mother, children know their father. We know our parents inside out. We study our parents. They're literally our roadmaps to life. And so, for you to go through things in a two-parent household, and first of all, let's talk about your father teaching y'all to fight. And that's the one thing I be telling people: leave girls alone who have fathers in their life. Like, just leave us alone. Because 9 times out of 10, our daddy had us in that floor teaching us how to scrap ever since we was
Right.
younger. I
Right.
know it was a rule in our house, and I think this was probably most households in the 80s and in the 90s. My parents would tell us, don't be outside acting a fool. Don't be up at that school fighting. But if you have a fight, you better win. Because if you don't win, you're going to have to deal with me when you come home. You want to deal with me or you want to deal with them? So for me, that was motivation. I
Right.
never got in trouble for having a
Right.
fight at school.
Right.
Ever. Ever, never. I would be suspended for 10 days. I wouldn't come home, get fussed at, get a whooping or anything. I would go home and I tell my parents I'm having issues with this person. They have a history of jumping, and you were almost jumped on a few times, and then you find a need to bring a knife to school. I walked around school with I had locks that was literally about this long, the master key locks.
Oh wow.
I never fought with a weapon before, but it got to the point where a group of girls who had a history of jumping on people with crowbars and things like that. They were at me. So in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna just take them out one by one. That's how I was thinking. But the fact that as someone in middle school and in high school, you have to think with that level of violence, that's not normal. And
Exactly.
so you shared with us about you getting pregnant at the age of 15, and then you getting kicked out of high school and no one taking the next moves to move you on in your life educationally. How did that make you feel?
Let's be honest, by that time, I was numb
Mm,
because I had already been through so much before I even became pregnant. I was running away from home. I was dealing with older men. Um, Me and my dad, I believe my dad he was so frustrated with me because I was always running away from home. Here, come get me. And the next day I'm back gone. And then he'd come find me again. And then I'll stay home for a day, and then I'm back gone. And then it got to the point where he couldn't find me because I was dealing with older guys. So I was out west and I was here and I was there. At first he knew I was because I was with my brother. I was with my oldest son's father and my guy at the time and another female friend of mine. So he knew where I was at because I was in the neighborhood. But it got to the point to where I started dealing with older guys. So man, I just became numb to my feelings
mm-hmm,
because I felt like don't no one cared. I felt like no one cared. And I'm not going to say that my mother and father didn't care, but my mom got tired of what I was doing because of what she was already going through with her own personal life with my father. My father did his best because every time I left, he came and got me, but it wasn't enough because I was going through things in the home, that I just didn't want to be there. I just didn't, I used to see my mom and dad fight a lot. You know, my dad having a child out of wedlock, and then this baby mama coming over and busting out windows and all kind of stuff. So it's like I just didn't want to be there. I just wanted to be cool. I didn't want to be with my people. I didn't want to be. I just wanted to have fun. So when it led up to me getting pregnant, it kind of like somewhat slowed me down. Because I was still in the streets. I was still doing what I wanted to do. I had my son. It didn't slow me down. It what slowed me down was when my son was 6 months, and these people almost killed me, and that would slow me down. But after that, it was like, oh, okay, I'm good. So I started back doing what I wanted to do to the point where my mom put me out and kept my son from me. I didn't call the police on my mom. Me and my mom was I ain't never fight her because she got some heavy hands. So I wasn't trying to go there. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't call the police. So it got to the point where my mom put me out, and I was on the street. I was a young mom on the streets. My son wasn't on the streets with me because that was my mother and my father's first grandchild. So my mom kept my son, and she told me, "When you get yourself together, you can have your son back." And to this day, now I look back on it, and I can say I was grateful and I'm thankful that she did that because my situation as a young mother, not knowing how to be a mom, because my parents taught us, but my parents didn't teach me. They didn't teach me the ins and out of, oh, well, this is how you be a younger lady. This is how you be a mom. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. A lot of things I learned on my own through going through the struggles. And then watching my mom, because my mom is a very strong woman. And I watch her deal with so much, but put so much to the side and tried to take care of home. She did the best she could. But so I wind up being a young teenage homeless mom just without the child. And that put me in a real dark, dark space where I felt like, well, I didn't feel like I didn't have no one. I didn't have a mom. I didn't have a dad. I didn't have friends. It was just me. It was just me by myself. And I didn't know what to do. I found myself, well, the young man I was dealing with was selling drugs, and he used to ask little customers that he was selling to if I could spend the night at their house. If I didn't do that, I found myself sleeping at the bus stop, or I found myself walking the streets all night, to the point to where it led me to, like I said, dealing with older people just to have somewhere to sleep, just to have somewhere to lay my head at, because I didn't know what was going to come the next day. And so, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, sis. Now, I know you mentioned some of the substance abuse and things that you had to witness your dad go through, some of the violence in the home. Although not directly in my home, but like immediate family. The crack epidemic like touched my immediate family that we saw up close and personal. And so I know the effects that some of that can have. Now, as far as you dealing with the older men and you being put out the house, due to your decisions, but also based off of what you've seen, do you feel like any of that had to do with your relationship with your dad?
Yes, to be honest, because I felt like if my dad would have paid more attention to me, if he would have installed more love in me and wouldn't have been with his addiction, then I wouldn't have went through it, because it made me go through, at the point I have started getting molested. Um, I've gotten molested through the young boys in my neighborhood that I just never told no one, because I felt like my dad ain't gonna do nothing. I felt like at that time my mom didn't care, so why tell anybody? You know, I have been raped, chased by men, to the point, man, my friend had to hide in people's garages just to get away. Um, so it got to the point where I just said, you know what, forget it. I'm just about to give myself. And I felt like if I gave myself with an older guy, looking back, I would find a father figure,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have that. I
Mm-hmm.
had a father. He was in the home, but I didn't have a father figure. You know, so it was like a lot. I was on my own. Like I said again, I was on my own a lot. I started being on my own when I was 14, 15 years old. I was on my own. I had to learn a lot of things from the streets, from going through hardships in the street, from almost being killed, because I almost got killed from trying to sell drugs,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want I saw my mom taking care of something that I created, and I didn't want that. I wanted to take care of my own child myself. So it pushed me into wanting to sell drugs. And to my son, 6 months in, it almost killed me. So that pushed me into wanting to get a job. So I got a job. I started dating my boss. And that gave me a window to be a little stable while leaving home. So that's what I did. I left home. When my mom couldn't take no more of the marriage and everything that was going on within their marriage, and my mom left and came back home to Chicago, I left and I moved in with my guy. And that was another mistake. I'm not going to say it was a mistake, because it was a blessing and it was a curse at the same time, because before the end and up to the end, I left my son behind. And my son went to some trauma at a very, very young age that I didn't know about, and to years later. But the blessing of it all is that I was able to get on my feet to where my mom gave me my son back, and I was able to raise my son on my own. And it gave me some stability to have a roof over my head where I don't have to walk the streets and I don't have to worry about this and I don't have to worry about that. And I went to school for nursing, well, for CNA. And by me going to school for a CNA, that has stabilized me throughout these years up into today. So it was a blessing and it was a curse at the same time.
Thank you so much for sharing that, sis. Now, I know with you going through all of that trauma, and then we talking about the role that your father played in it, and then your mom as well, and you being able to leave the home and to get on your feet. It's just, and I'm sorry to hear about your son. And like a lot of times when we experience a certain trauma in our family, that thing gets passed down through our DNA. We talk about that.
Curse, like a
It's a curse.
generational curse, yeah.
Absolutely. And we're gonna get into your beliefs so that people can understand why we know and feel as if this pathology is deeper than environment, that it has literally to do with what's encoded on the inside of us based off of life choices and decisions of our ancestors that even came before us. What I do want to touch on is because I went live on my Instagram before this interview to let people know that we were going to be going live. And I didn't even know we was going to like hit on this specifically. So I'm thankful to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that you brought this up. I said on that Instagram live that I have never seen a hypersexual man or woman that was never molested or never touched first, that was never raped. I've never seen a self-made hoe. And so when we put our mouths on people and we label them this and we label them that, we fail to get to the cause. We see the effect, and we just think that people out here just living free and having fun. And a lot of people like, oh, I'm free living. Women say I'm taking control of my femininity and my sexuality. But where did you get that mindset from? Where did that start from? And so I empathize and sympathize with you, because you said when you got raped, when you were raped, you just started freely giving of yourself. I did the same thing. I was raped by somebody in high school, and I didn't tell my parents about it right away. And because I didn't want this person to rape me again, I just gave of myself because I was afraid of him. And then in adulthood, I found myself being like, no man is ever going to take my body from me again. I'm going to control every situation that I'm in. And so that will push a woman to a masculine state, that will push a woman to a state of whoredom, a state of fornication, a state of adultery, because all you're thinking about is being in control because you've lost control before. And to me, that I'm so thankful that you said that, because a lot of people skip over these things. And even while you're going through these different lifestyle choices, you just think, oh, I'm having fun. I'm doing whatever I want to do. But when you sit down and you really think about the psychology and the spirit that operates behind this thing, then it's really mind blowing. So I know you guys grew up Christian. Are you still currently Christian? If not, first of all, tell us what you grew up believing, if you still believe that, and if you don't, exactly what you believe.
Okay. Well, like I said, I grew up in the church. Um, when I was a young lady, I don't know how old I was, pretty young. I used to watch my dad in the pulpit preach on Sundays. Like I said, my mom kept us in the church. As I got older, my mom became an ordained minister. So I was brought up in the Christian church. But as I became a young adult on my own, I guess by my mother and father keeping us in that, I always carried and walked with the Most High God. Regardless of what I did in my life, I always found myself going back to church. Um, but I had a lot of questions about the church. But I never understood. So I just went with it. I felt like it was okay. It felt good. It fed my spirit. I was at this one church, to be honest, to where the Most High God had touched me so much. It was a refreshing feeling, a feeling I never had. You could say it was an intimate feeling that He had with me and my spirit. And this when I was a young mother, and I was taking my children to church. But I still had questions about the church. I'm not against Christian church. Let me put that out there. I'm not against them at all, because my brother now he preaches in the church. Like I said, my mother is an ordained minister. So I have nothing against Christian churches. Me personally, um, prefer not to be in one due to the fact of and like I say, I always have questions like, why do you always preaching on the same thing? You know what I'm saying? And why this and why that, this, that, and the other. So in 2017, I was introduced into the Hebrew Israelite by a cousin of mine. And she was very knowledgeable on what she was saying. And from me knowing this young lady background and the things that she went through, it blew my mind to see her that engaged within the Bible and within the word. And it was like, wow, I want to know about that. And I used to see the men on Madison and Pulaski on Saturdays with their microphones, and I used to wonder, like, who is these men? They look weird, dressed up in these costumes. So when I started talking to my cousin, and she was giving me knowledge on it, I said, oh, okay. So she started giving me scriptures to read, and she started breaking down scriptures to me. And then she told me to watch this video on this camp. So I started doing it, and it caught me just like that. And it was like, wow, this is deep. And the way they was teaching was different from the way I grew up being taught, because they actually taught you precept upon precept, line upon line. They don't do that in the churches. I grew up with the pastor maybe reading a paragraph, closing the Bible, and he and ha for the next 2 hours. So when I seen a different way of learning the Bible, I was very interested in it. So I started studying it. Everybody was telling me, oh, that's some cart stuff, and oh, this, oh, Ebony. There's so much negativity. But my spirit told me, keep going, don't stop. So I did. And I ran to some beautiful people. It's this one guy, his name is Bishop Joseph. And I had started watching him and his wife for 2 years. I would watch them to this day because I love the way they teach. And it was like, wow. And they was teaching me things that I never learned in the church. And that's where I learned about the pagan holidays. And I'm like, dang, so we up here celebrating Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, New Year's in the church, and we ain't supposed to. You know what I'm saying? And then it made me question things more like, dang God, why is it a church on every in the black community on every corner with a liquor store too? On every
My
corner.
God.
So he started, and I was me and my ex-husband, we used to go to this church out west, get baptized there and everything. And this is what really pulled me away from church. We got baptized, us and our kids and everything. The church was good. First, I feel as if they kind of forced us to get married. Second, we on one Sunday, we having church, and some white people came to the church. They sat way up front. And I'm looking like, who is these people? They after doing second service, they presented the pastor with a check. So I'm like, what kind of mess is this? So I prayed on it. So years later, when I started doing the Hebrew thing, it was like, Ebony, pastors have to teach y'all a certain way, especially in the Christian church. They can't teach you what they want to teach you. Because I was also going to a church where the pastor only talked about sex all the time, but just put it in a different format. And I was like, why are you always talking about sex? You know? And then the pastor told us one Sunday, like, God keep telling me to tell y'all something, but I can't do it. Why you can't do it? So these things like, oh, they are ran as like an organization. That's how I felt. But that's what I do believe. Churches, because we had to, I just felt like it was like an organization thing. In the Hebrew church, they teach you more of what we are supposed to do as children of the Most High God, how we are supposed to live. Now, I'm not gonna say all Hebrew Israelites, because you do have some hypocrites up in there. And when my spirit speaks to me, I listen. Because now I know that Ebony, that's because they say they're Hebrew Israelite, doesn't mean anything. But that's what I want my studying to be at. I don't have, like I said, I have nothing against the Christian church, but I prefer not to go to them due to the fact that I know you're not going to teach me right. I know you're not going to teach me the way you are supposed to teach me and the way I'm supposed to be taught and the things I'm supposed to be taught. I didn't know about the high holy days, the high feast days until I was in my 30s and started studying about Hebrew. The first Passover I ever knew about was when I went with you guys. I never knew about well, I heard about Passover, but I heard about it through the Jewish people, the Jewish people. So I never knew about that. And so it opened my eyes to something totally different. And it opened my eyes to the truth because, and I give all praises and thanks to you, sis, because you taught me a lot, and it was like, wow, like, this is crazy. Like, like, oh my God, Lord, thank you. And it's like it answered all the questions I always had about the Christian church, and about why is the pastor doing this and why every year these people come to this church and give my pastor a plat in a check. Is it because you're doing things in order the way they want you to do things in order? To me, churches is like the schools. We are being taught what they want us to be taught and how they want to teach us. As far as the Hebrew Israelites, we are being taught what we are supposed to be taught, what our Father put in that book for us to teach in the way it is supposed to be taught. So I don't have a religion. I just know that I am the Most High God's daughter. I am a queen, and I put him first before any and everything. I have the understanding that I give all my problems to him, and he take care of me, and he open doors for me if I call out to him and speak with him. Now, I can't lie. My mother and father always have taught me when I was coming up, have a relationship with him on your own. Know him for yourself. My mother and father was some praying people, and they still are to this day. And I think I'm not going to say they installed that in me because they didn't pray with us, but it's in me because I have been told so many times I am a prayer warrior because I will get on my knees, baby, and I will pray some things away. So I'm thankful that he put the spirit on me that he put on me, because since I have been walking and learning the Hebrew way, I feel like I have learned so much more. I have gotten better in my walk in life with him. I have gotten better with understanding him and who he is and what he is and who I am and whom I belong to. because I didn't learn that in a Christian church. I just learned pray, everything gonna be okay, you know. But no, it's more than that. And I didn't. Oh, you have to have faith, but what kind of faith I gotta have?
Mm.
You know, what kind of walk that I gotta walk? But by me being in the Hebrew church and you teaching me what you have taught me, and by Bishop Joseph teaching me what he have taught me, and the little people from the Hebrew Israelite congregations that I have learned from, man, since my life have taken off. I see things in such a bigger light, and my walk with God is so much stronger and it's so much better. And I feel comfortable with speaking about Him now because I know more now than I knew in the Christian church. So I'm grateful and I'm thankful that I was introduced because I felt like it was meant for me to know that. It was meant for me to know who and whom I am and what's really being taught, what was really being wrote in that book. So I'm just grateful for that. You know, regardless of what anybody say, they call it a cult, they can call it what they want. I call it like he said, I have been awakened and I follow the Hebrews. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing, sis. So, for people who don't understand, when you grow up in the church, specifically the black church, and your mother and your father are preachers, it is not easy to leave. It is not easy to say, this is what I found. This is what I believe. This is what the Bible is truly saying. It is one of the hardest things to ever do because you're going against years. And we can't say indoctrination because, like you said, your parents taught you to know the Most High for yourself, to study for yourself, to pray for yourself. My parents taught me the same thing. So even though both of us grew up in a Christian household, we were not deeply indoctrinated like a lot of other people. This is what you have to believe. They just taught us what they knew. And whatever else we found out was because they instilled on the inside of us to search out the Most High. I would be remiss to not mention the reason and how we met through Dwayne. And he taught me, well, I'm saying Moon, because that's what people know him as. He taught both of us a lot when it came to certain things. I know that was the first person that I ran into in the Israelite community, but being able to open up that book and to, because I already knew how to study because of how my parents taught us. I knew how to study. So when my sister Ebony mentions the fact that all of these holidays that we celebrate on the Gregorian calendar, which is the Roman Catholic calendar, which changed under Pope Gregory, and we've been given all of these holidays that actually originate in Mesopotamia. These are the same gods that we were serving in Babylon that the Most High told us to put away. These are the same gods that He told us not to pick up the way of the heathens. Because when we celebrate these holidays, those praises are going to those deities that those holidays are mapped out for. So when she says that we weren't taught about the holy days in Christianity, these are just facts. This isn't something that we were taught about. So for my sister, y'all, this is the first interview that I have had on Survivor Scribe with someone who is fully knowledgeable on who they are as a Hebrew, who keeps the laws. And when we say keep the laws, we worship on the Sabbath. We keep the high holy days, the Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, which is what the Black church calls Pentecost Sunday, but they're not realizing that Pentecost falls on a Sunday because it's 49 days plus 1 day after Passover, after the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So we've done our deep digging to find out who we are. That's why she has her head wrapped, because we're Hebraic. How to pray in a different way. You now know how to know that when the New Testament quotes and says that faith without works is dead, we know that that the works part is you keeping the laws. It's not what people think. They like, oh, you gotta, you have to put action. Of course, you have to put action. But because we know, theologically speaking, that keeping the law is what's going to be able to unlock doors. So I know you mentioned being married and being divorced. If you care to share a little bit on that. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. The Ruach be bringing things back. You said you felt like the Christian church forced you guys to get married. I'm going to tell you that I concur with you 100%. The Christian church will always throw in that scripture, it's better to marry than to burn. Well, why not teach us about celibacy before marriage? Or let's teach, no, or teach us about the true definition of fornication.
But to be honest, sis, I felt like we needed counseling first. We didn't get no counseling. Okay. They wanted us to get married before we had our son.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I had him 2 weeks early, so it was like after I had him, I think our son was like 2 months, and my ex-husband just came to me like, "Oh, we getting married next Sunday." Huh? You serious? Like, so who picked this date? Oh, the pastor just called me and told me. Oh, okay. There it was. To be honest, I feel like we wasn't ready to get married because he wasn't in a place to get to become a husband. And like I said, yeah, I felt like we was very much forced to get married. It was just like, oh, okay, this is the day y'all getting married at the church. After church, we wasn't able to get a wedding together, and have a traditional wedding like everybody has. No, we had to do it after church. Like, okay, after church on this day, y'all getting married. It felt weird to me. It was like, why? Because I believe shortly after that or before that, our pastor started giving us a bill. And it was like, why is we getting bills? Like, okay, I understand you got to pay your tithes and offering, but who gives out bills telling you how much the water and the gas and the lights and all that stuff is? Like, what kind of church are we in? Like, I didn't get it. Like, seriously, I really didn't. So, yeah.
That's something that's popular, though. I have seen
I
a
never.
lot about pastors forcing young couples to get married, even when it's no pregnancy involved. There has been instances when I know for a fact people have been told, "Oh, that's your husband, that's your wife," and they don't even like this person, and now they're in marriages unequally yoked. The Black church has a habit of playing God when it comes to relationships versus sitting us down and teaching us about true courtship versus sitting us down and teaching us the truth about what they call shacking up versus sitting us down and teaching us the truth that the Roman Catholic definition of fornication is not the biblical definition of fornication. It's just so many things. And so we have so many high divorce rates with people in our age group. I know people that's my age who have been divorced once, twice, three times because we're just in such a hurry to get
Yeah,
married. And so
exactly.
even though being a baby mama is not popular, even though, I'm like, call me the mother of your child. I was talking to my father because I was engaged to my son's father. And I said, Daddy, do you think it's dumb of me to feel as if that I would much rather have kept your last name all of these years, kids and all, versus marrying men, because I've been engaged twice, versus marrying men that I knew my marriage was not going to work with. And he said, no, it's best to count your losses early than to count them afterwards. But
Yeah.
this isn't the mindset they put us in. We've been taught also as women in the Christian church and even in the Israelite community to accept less than what it is that we desire just to be called a wife. So I thank you so much for sharing that with me. I know you mentioned that you guys are divorced, you guys are no longer together. Now, share with us what you feel as if it takes to keep a marriage together so that we can help someone else out.
Uh, well, to be honest, like I said, I believe first and foremost counseling. Get counsel because you have to know what you're walking into and what to expect, just so to see if this is something that you're ready for. Second is you have to walk into that marriage loving that person and with a clear mind. Because my son's father gave me a book um through the midst of my divorce, and he was like, "Read this book. It's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind." And one of the chapters in that book was speaking about marriage and why marriages fail. And it spoke to me because I walked into my marriage looking at my husband as being an alcoholic, a cheater, this bad vibes. So what you walk into the marriage with, that's what you're going to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did because I didn't know no better. It was like I walked into the marriage. I didn't like my husband at the time because we had just fought that morning and we was going through some things to where we was living in hotels and he was getting us put out of hotels because of his drunkenness and all this and that. And it was like, I don't want to marry. I felt like I was forced into marriage through my church and somewhat of with my husband. Because the day we got married, I didn't want to get married on that day. I felt like we need to work on us. This is not going to work because you is like this and I'm tired of dealing with this. So it was like I was forced. And dealing with that, we as two young people that don't know nothing about being married or even how to work a marriage out, we just went head into it. And so I feel like he looked at it as if I was still his girlfriend
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't understand the marriage part of it. I looked at it as this. I took my vows serious. I did. And I fought and I dealt with so much. To be honest, I seen myself in my mother's shoes, dealing with a man that have an addiction that I'm trying to love, trying to hold down a home with, because this is the man that I chose to marry. And I found myself being bitter. I found myself being sad all the time, crying all the time, arguing all the time, fighting all the time, to the point where to be honest, I didn't give up until I got tired of my husband cheating on me. My marriage only lasted together as a married couple for 6 months. Once my father-in-law passed away, God rest his soul, I love you, pops. Once my father-in-law passed away, my marriage really took a toll because my ex-husband blamed some things on me, and that's when he started cheating. I felt like I didn't have no support system due to that because nobody wanted me to marry him. So it was like everybody like, girl, you're on your own. My mom told me, Ebony, I'm not telling you to leave your marriage, but you gotta pray. This is the time you gotta be on your knees. You gotta pray. You gotta pray. You gotta pray for him. I used to talk to his mom. His mom told me the same. Girl, you gotta pray. You gotta pray. You gotta pray. You gotta pray. I prayed. It didn't work. I felt like it didn't work because the enemy had a strong hold on him to where I couldn't take that stronghold off of him. Regardless to how much I prayed, regardless to how much I cried out to him, regardless to how much I stood still in the midst of things that I did not want to accept. But because I wanted to try to make my marriage work, I dealt with so much. People may not see what I dealt with because I didn't bring too much of my marital problems outside of my home.
Mm-hmm.
But it got to the point where I started seeing my kids, especially my daughter, see me go through something I saw my mom go through.
Mm-hmm.
And when my 8-year old daughter went downstairs, because we stayed upstairs for my mom, and asked my mom, Grandma, if a man say they love you, Are they supposed to talk to you like that? Are they supposed to try and fight you and this, that, and the other? And when my mom presented that to me, I said, wow. If my 8-year-old daughter can acknowledge this man may not love her mother, what is wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to hold on to something that really I never really had. So I had to pray, because then once when I got in a marriage, I knew how to pray. I knew how to call out to him. I knew how to ask him to remove and renew. And that's when I began to pray. And I began to ask him to fix it or remove me and my children, because I didn't want my children to get to the point to where I got to, especially my daughter, to where she want to start hanging in the streets because she don't want to deal with what's going on at home, or she started dealing with other older men because the men that married her mom, that's supposed to be her dad, that's supposed to love her unconditionally, really treated her like she was nothing compared to his daughter. And I didn't want my daughter to feel no type of way. And then I didn't want my boys to hold no grudge against me, because I was already going through things with my older son due to men, that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to continue that with my other kids. My marriage was, oh God. So you know how my marriage was. Like you walked me through it. Like, and that's why I say I love you so dearly. Because if I felt like, because in the midst of my prayers, I asked the Most High to send me his children to help me, and to help me go through what I was going through. And that's when I met my brother Moon. And I felt like the Most High God brought him to me to bring you to me. Because even though I love my brother dearly, yes, he taught me a lot about Hebrew Israelite, but you walked me out of a marriage that if I wouldn't have met you, I felt like I would have continued to go through the okie doke. I would have continued to go through the abuse, knowing that what this man is doing to me. I was already, when I met you, I was at my weeks, at my end, but it was like I was still holding on to this man because I loved him. We had a kid together, like you said. I got tired of being a baby mama, and it was like, Lord, I'm tired of being a baby mama. Okay, we had a kid. It's time to be a wife. I wasn't ready to be a wife because he wasn't ready to be a husband. And if you wouldn't have came in my life and prayed me out of that situation, and if your sisters wouldn't have came to you to come to me to prophesy on to me, I probably still would have been stuck in a marriage right now, or be so tied to a man that made me feel so low and so miserable, and try to give me so much low self-esteem about myself, to where he started to make me feel like I wasn't a good mother. I couldn't take care of my kids. I didn't love my husband. I didn't have my home together, to where my husband started bringing women into my home. But through the grace of God, through my prayers, through your prayers, and through your love and grace, and his love and his grace, and knowing and him teaching me at that time who and whom I was, that I walked away. And I was able to walk away with my head held high. Like your sister said, she's going to leave and she's not going to turn back. And that's exactly what I did. Because when your sisters came to you to prophesy to me of what they saw and didn't even know me from a can of paint, never saw me, I knew that it was my father speaking to me. And I knew it was time to completely walk away and give it up and say, Lord, I surrender. And when I surrendered and I asked him to remove that from me, he did, even though I'm still stuck with the man's last name. But I don't feel solely tied to him anymore, because I felt like I didn't want to do nothing. So, I didn't want to date. I felt like I was committing adultery. And we
Mm-hmm.
spoke about that. And you're like, no, sis, your marriage is already over because of what your husband did. that made me say, okay, Lord, not that I can get out here and go sleep with other men again, but I don't feel like I'm so tied to this man, because with me having that soul tie as a wife, it wore me down. It made me miserable. It made me um isolate myself once again, like I did when I was a kid, because of this man that I love that really didn't care about me. And so yeah, that was with the marriage thing. It only lasted 6 months, but I went through the feeling for 2 years until I legally got divorced. And that's when I felt like I was free. I felt free. I felt like, okay, Ebony, you can be you. That wasn't your husband. That wasn't your husband. And that's how I feel. We still friends to this day, but no. Oh, yeah. I had a short experience in the marriage life.
Thank you for sharing that with us, sis. And you know, I love you. We went through it together. We were going through things together. Just as much as I was there for you, you were there for me as well. It was plenty of days when I would literally come running to you. So even though I've thanked you privately before, I will say without a shadow of a doubt, with everything that I was going through, I wouldn't have been able to go through it without having you in my life.
Well,
You
you gave me the strength to give you the strength. For real. You really did. You gave me the
he
strength.
put us together for a reason during that
Yeah.
time and during that season.
Yes,
Yeah, and
yes.
he does all things well. He does all things, even though we don't understand it, and our free will has a play in different things. I'm thankful that both of us found ourselves in those situations, that the Most High could allow us to minister to each other so that we can minister to other people. So tell us where you are at in life right now. And now's going to be the time for you to talk to us about your business and any endeavors that you have going on before we close it out.
Okay. Well, now in my life, um, I'm in a process. Um, I'm in a so much peaceful state of mind. Um, I'm I feel so blessed. I feel I'm so grateful. I'm so much at peace. I have such a bigger relationship with my Father, the Most High God. Um, he allows my soul and my mind to rest. He's opening doors for me that I couldn't even imagine. Like seriously, like when I got them divorce papers and I said, Lord, thank you. Let me walk with you. Now my walk is with him. I give him everything because he gives me everything. I had a vision in 2019 because like I said before, I've been a CNA since I've been 18 years old. I'm 41 now. So I've been a CNA for like 22, 23 years. And it was a job that I was working at here in Chicago. I worked there for 8, 9 years. I hated the way they treated their patients, our residents. I hated the way the facility was because I am a loving, caring person. I have compassion for what I do. I enjoy caring for people. I feel like that's my calling in life is to be a caregiver to those who cannot care for themselves or for those that need help because I love this. I love sitting around talking to people. So in 2019, when me working at the job I was working, I said, you know what, Lord, I want to start my own healthcare business. I'm gonna open up my own healthcare agency, and I'm gonna make it so these people won't have to come to a place like this. And that's what I did. I came up. He gave me the name. One day I'm sitting at work, and he gave me a vision. Ebony, the name of your company is gonna be All in Our Hands. So you are the name of my company is All in Our Hands. Doing business as All in Our Hands, Care on Wheels. And This is back in 2019. Then later on, a couple of months later, he gave me a vision on what to say and how to run it and everything. So I went with it and everything. I kind of like fell back from it for a couple of years. And then last year, I wanted to get into the embroidery business, making my own t-shirts and stuff. So I bought an embroidery machine. I'm learning how to work the embroidery machine and how to sew, and because I wanted to make shirts for the Hebrew congregation and get paid to sew fringes on clothes and stuff. He had another plan for me because while I'm doing that, he like, that ain't what I told you to do. He said, I told you to do this. Focus on this. And he said it just, I said, okay. So I told my sister, I said, Londa, I got to put the embroidery machine to the side. The Most High said I need to focus on my business. So I saw it. At first, I wouldn't talk to nobody about my business. But at this time, I had started meditating. And so I learned in the midst of me meditating, somehow I guess you could say I got the strength to be more vocal. So I started speaking with people at my job, telling them my vision and what I wanted to do. And this young man, a nurse, started talking to me about a lady he knew how to. He's like, telling me the steps I had to go through and stuff like that. So one day I'm sitting at home, he's like, Ebony, get on the computer and Google how to get your license registered, your business registered in Chicago. So I did that. Found this company called Century 21 that I'm working with right now. He's building my website. My business is about basically trying to, it's for the elderly community, is to keep them from going into nursing homes. If with the Most High God's will, which I already know it's in my divine order and it's in my journey to keep people at the comfort of their own home. I'll be going out doing what I love to do, taking care of them. But um, not now, but in a year or two, I will be adding on home care service to where I come and we do your yard work where you are year round. Most people have to go into nursing homes maybe because they can't they don't have no one to fix their house up for them and their house is falling apart. But my business is going to come in and we're going to fix your house up for you to where it's livable and you don't, any means necessary, anything I can do for you to keep your children or somebody that's over you or yourself from saying this person needs to go into the nursing home. That's what my business for. I take you out. If you like ladies, get your nails there, take you to go shopping. We do your grocery shopping for you, doctor's appointments. Hey, if you want to go play bingo, I'll take you to go play bingo. Anything that they hearts desire, because just because you're getting old doesn't mean you have to go to me as an institution. Doesn't mean you have to go there. You can still live life, and you can live life happy. And I understand sometimes your children can't fulfill that because they have their own life and they have children and they have jobs. So I understand how some people have to put their parents in a nursing home. But that's what you have me for. And that's what you have my people for all in our hands. We'll take it all and we'll put it in our hands. You put it in our hands like we put our faith and our worries on our Father. Come put your parents' problems in my hand and I'm going to take care of it. and and you won't have to worry about, well, my mom got to go here, and is she going to be taken care of, right? Is she going to be getting bed sores? Is she going to be being abused and this and that and that? No, because you can always come to your mom house where you was raised or wherever and see her and you know that they're getting the care that they need. I just feel like this is my calling. I always have love taking care of people, especially elderly people. It's a passion of mine. I've been doing it since I'm at 18, and I don't see myself doing anything else but that. So why not start my own business in it?
Thank you for sharing that with us. As you know, I'm a former CNA too, and it definitely takes
I know.
it definitely takes compassion because CNAs and nurses are some of the evilest people you will ever meet in your life. Because a lot of people get into it for the money, for the overtime, for the
Exactly.
free health insurance, and so
Mhm.
I pray that the Most High blesses you and that He not only expands the finances and expands, but he even expands the vision that this thing can be worldwide, that it can be global, that it can be international, because that's the type of faith that we definitely have. So with that being said, you guys, you can donate to Ebony's Cash App. It's scrolling across the screen. I left it in the comments when we end the broadcast. It will be posted in the description. You can donate to her Cash App at my kids 7981. Please do so. Sis, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
my
Thank you.
interview. You started my morning off amazingly. I know when people watch this interview back, it was very in depth. You were very honest and transparent. And we got to talk about the truth as well as your business. I love you, sis, and I appreciate
I love you
you.
so. I appreciate it. It's my first interview. I was nervous, but I appreciate you. I'm always comfortable with you.
Thank you.
It was a blessing. Even though the enemy tried to knock it out, but no, he always have an extra plan in store for us. So I thank the Most High God for allowing you and I to finally sit down and have this interview. I've been telling everybody about it for the longest. So I just thank the Most High God for allowing it to happen and not continuously to allow the enemy to come in and stir up his little pot. So I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Thank you for all the viewers, for those that's listening and watching. Stay prayed up and give all praise and give all thanks to the Most High God. Put Him first. Love yourself before you can love anyone else. And just know that God and me and my sister love you. Praise
Yes. So thank you guys for coming back to my channel. This is Jacolia of Jacolia Gems signing off. Do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, and share this to your social media platforms. Bye, y'all.
Bye.